Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something truly incredible. We are going on a fascinating, step-by-step journey to completely demystify one of the most profound spiritual rituals in the world, Umrah. To make this whole process super clear, we're going to follow a narrative anchor today. We'll be walking alongside a pilgrim named Abdullah and his wife. By tracing their exact chronological path from their home all the way to the heart of Mecca, we are going to break down the rules, the rituals, and the deep spiritual significance behind every single step they take.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with preparation and the Miqat, move into entering the State of Ihram, cover the Tawaf, then the Sa'i, and finally, completing the Umrah ritual. Let's get into it.
Section 1. Preparation and the Miqat. Before the journey. You see, this journey actually begins long before Abdullah even reaches Mecca. The very first concept we absolutely have to grasp is the Miqat. Think of it as a strict geographical boundary. There are 5 of these designated stations, places like Abir Ali or Rabigh, that form a ring around Mecca. And here's the catch. A pilgrim simply cannot cross this boundary without already being in a sacred state of intention for Umrah. If Abdullah were to accidentally cross his designated Miqat without this intention, he actually owes an expiation. He would literally have to slaughter a sheep and distribute its meat among the poor of the Holy Mosque just to make up for it. No joke.
So, the really crucial takeaway here is that preparation is deeply holistic. It is way more than just tossing some clothes into a suitcase. Before crossing that Miqat, Abdullah has to clear his spiritual slate. He seeks forgiveness from loved ones and returns any rights owed to others. Then comes the physical purification, right? We're talking trimming nails, removing underarm and pubic hair, taking a full bath, and perfuming the body. Finally, all of this preparation culminates in a 2-rakah prayer. During this prayer, it's customary to recite Surah Al-Kafirun in the first unit and Surah Al-Ikhlas in the second.
Moving right along to Section 2, entering the State of Ihram, the sacred state.
Picture this. Abdullah and his wife are on their flight. Suddenly, the pilot comes on the PA system and announces they are approaching the Miqat in the air. This right here is the exact moment they enter Ihram. Now, it's really vital to understand that Ihram isn't just about the clothing, even though, yes, the garments are a huge visible part of it. It's actually a sacred state of ritual consecration. It's a total spiritual mode of being that immediately shifts how a pilgrim behaves, speaks, and interacts with the physical world around them.
And the visual contrast here is just striking. For men, like Abdullah, they literally have to shed all tailored, stitched clothing that defines their everyday status or wealth. Instead, they wear 2 simple, unstitched white sheets, the rida for the upper body and the izar for the lower body, along with non-sewed footwear. It's a profound equalizer. For his wife, the rules are quite different. Women just wear their normal, modest clothing, but they are specifically prohibited from wearing a face niqab or gloves while in this state. So once they're dressed appropriately and hit that boundary, they make their formal intention. They declare, Labbaik Allahumma Umrah, which means, "Oh Allah, I answer your call to perform Umrah." From this exact moment, they start reciting the talbiyah. It's this beautiful, recurring, rhythmic chant echoing their submission. And what's super fascinating about how this is executed is that men are encouraged to recite this chant aloud, really filling the space with their voices, while women recite it quietly, just loud enough to hear themselves.
Now, entering this consecrated state triggers some immediate, very strict prohibitions. While they are in Ihram, Abdullah and his wife absolutely cannot cut a single hair or clip their nails. They can't apply any new perfume to their bodies or their garments. Men are strictly forbidden from covering their heads. Furthermore, there's absolutely no hunting or harming of wild game, no concluding marriage contracts or making proposals, and 0 romantic intimacy. It is a highly disciplined state of pure focus.
All right, Section 3, Tawaf, circling the Kaaba. The sacred circuits.
So, the plane lands and they travel directly into Mecca. They enter the sacred mosque, stepping with their right foot first, offering a specific supplication. At this exact moment, as they catch sight of the Kaaba and prepare for the Tawaf, they completely stop reciting that talbiyah chant. But before Abdullah takes his very first step around the Kaaba, there's a specific physical action he has to do called Idhtiba. This means men take that upper white sheet, the rida, tuck it under their right armpit, and throw it over their left shoulder. This intentionally leaves the right shoulder completely exposed. It's this really striking visual marker letting everyone know the intense physical exertion of the Tawaf is about to begin. And what exactly is the Tawaf? Well, the magic number to remember here is 7. They are going to complete 7 counterclockwise circuits around the Kaaba. Every single circuit starts and ends at the exact location of the black stone. Notice the pacing too, because it changes. For the first 3 rounds, men are instructed to walk with quick, short steps, a practice known as Ramal, and then they maintain a normal pace for the final 4. Women, on the other hand, just walk at a normal, steady pace for all 7 rounds.
During these 7 intense circuits, pilgrims can actually recite any prayers they want, straight from the heart, as long as they keep the Kaaba to their left. But there is a rhythmic spiritual anchor to all of this. On every single round, when they reach the stretch between the Yamani corner and the Blackstone, it is highly recommended to recite this beautiful, specific supplication. Our Lord, give us in this world that which is good, and in the hereafter that which is good, and protect us from the punishment of the fire.
Boom, round 7 is done. The moment Abdullah finishes that final circuit, the physical rules shift once again. He immediately pulls his garment back over his right shoulder, covering it up. Then they move to a spot behind the Maqam Ibrahim, which is the standing place of Abraham, to pray 2 rakas. Following this prayer, the sources highlight a deeply nourishing step, drinking deeply from Zamzam water. Now this isn't just basic hydration. Zamzam is a blessed water believed by pilgrims to heal sickness and actually satisfy hunger, physically replenishing them after the immense spiritual and physical exertion they just went through during the Tawaf.
Next up, Section 4. Say, Safa to Marwah, following Hajj's path.
Nourished and totally revitalized by the Zamzam water, Abdullah and his wife transition to the Sa'i. This is the ritual of traversing back and forth between 2 distinct mounts, Safa and Marwah. What they're doing here is tracing the ancient, desperate footsteps of Hajar as she frantically searched for water for her infant son. The ritual officially kicks off by ascending Mount Safa. Abdullah and his wife stand there, turn to face the Kaaba in the distance, and recite specific Quranic verses and praises declaring the absolute oneness and greatness of God.
Now here's where the physical movement expectations suddenly diverge again. As they walk from Safa to Marwah, there is a specific zone indicated by green markers or lights. When Abdullah hits these green markers, he is required to jog or walk with wide, quick steps, literally physically reflecting Hajr's urgency. His wife, however, just maintains her normal, steady walking pace right through this entire zone. Once he's past the green markers, Abdullah slows down and resumes a normal walking pace alongside her.
And look at that, we see that magic number 7 pop up again, but we really need to clarify the counting math here, because it can actually be a bit confusing if it's your first time. Walking from Safa to Marwah is counted as 1 complete round. Walking back from Marwah to Safa is round 2. Because of this alternating pattern, the 7th and final round perfectly and definitively concludes at Mount Marwah.
Which brings us to Section 5, completing the Umrah ritual, the final act.
Arriving at Mount Marwah for the 7th and final time brings us to the definitive conclusion of this journey. To officially exit that strict state of Ihram and formally conclude the Umrah, a final physical act is required. And once again, we see a clear contrast in the rules between men and women. Men have a choice here. They can either shave their heads completely or visibly trim their hair all over. Women, on the other hand, absolutely do not shave. They simply gather their hair and cut off the length of a fingertip from all sides.
Now, if you're wondering why Abdullah makes the bold choice to shave his head completely rather than just giving it a quick trim, well, the data points here explain it perfectly. The sources tell us that the Prophet offered a specific prayer for mercy and forgiveness for the pilgrims, but he prayed for those who shave their heads 3 separate times compared to only 1 single prayer for those who merely trim their hair. By shaving his head, Abdullah is visualizing and securing this immense triple spiritual reward, marking a complete and total renewal of his spirit.
And with that final physical act, Abdullah and his wife step entirely out of the state of Ihram. Their Umrah is officially complete. We've traced their literal steps today, from the meticulous preparation at the Miqat through the intense, strict discipline of Ihram, the magnetic pull of the Tawaf, and the historical echoes of the Sa'i. It is an intensely physical, deeply demanding process designed to forge a totally pure spiritual slate. Which leaves us with this final question to ponder. As this highly structured, intense journey concludes, how will carrying this profound spiritual reset reshape their daily lives when they return to the chaotic, everyday world back home? It's a fascinating thought to leave you with. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.